A millionaire was walking through the city when something unexpected happened. Amidst the crowd, a woman and two small children caught his attention. The encounter brought back memories from the past and a painful secret that needed to be revealed. What he did next shocked everyone. Before you hear this emotional story, subscribe to the channel for more unforgettable tales. Michael Anderson walked hurriedly along Fifth Avenue, adjusting the gold watch on his wrist, while ignoring the persistent calls from his assistant about the investor meeting that would start in 15 minutes. At 35, he had built an empire in the real estate market, but that frantic routine was beginning to take its toll. On that autumn afternoon, something made him take a different path than usual, a seemingly insignificant decision that would change his life forever. The cold wind blew between the skyscrapers when his eyes captured a scene that made him stop abruptly. Sitting on the sidewalk, near a busy coffee shop, was a woman with two small girls. Her clothes, although visibly worn, still maintained a certain care, as if she were trying to preserve dignity even in the worst circumstances. The children, identical twins, couldn't have been more than 4 years old. Michael felt his heart race when he recognized that face, even through the marks that time and hardship had left. Emily Davis, the girl who 15 years ago was the protagonist of his teenage dreams at the most prestigious school in Boston. She, who came from a traditional family, had never given him attention, preferring the company of the more popular students. Now fate placed her in his path in a way he could never have imagined. One of the girls was crying softly, while the other clung to her mother's arm, watching pedestrians with frightened eyes. Emily tried to comfort her daughters with soft words, but her own voice trembled. "Everything will be okay, my princesses. Mommy promises she'll find a place for us to sleep tonight." Michael realized his legs were automatically taking him toward them. 15 years had passed, but he still remembered perfectly the smile Emily wore in the school hallways, the way her brown hair shone under the sun during physical education classes, the sound of her laughter that echoed through the courtyard. During breaks, "Emily?" His voice came out firmer than expected. "Emily Davis?" She slowly raised her eyes, and Michael could see the exact moment when recognition crossed her face, immediately followed by a wave of shame that made her look away. The girls moved even closer to her, like small birds seeking protection. "Michael. Michael Anderson." Her voice was just a whisper. "Please, you don't need to." "What happened to you?" He crouched down to be at her level, ignoring the curious glances from passers-by. "Why are you here on the street with the children?" Emily shook her head, trying to maintain her composure. "We're fine, Michael. You don't need to worry. It's just a difficult phase. It'll pass." But Michael could see beyond the brave words. The girl's eyes revealed hunger, and the trembling in Emily's hands betrayed exhaustion. Without thinking twice, he took off his coat and placed it over her shoulders, a gesture that made her look up, surprised. "I'm not leaving you here," he declared firmly. "Come with me. I have a house big enough for all three of you, and we can talk calmly about how to help." "I can't accept," Emily protested weakly. "You don't owe me anything, Michael. In fact, after how I treated you in school." "The past is the past," he gently interrupted her. "Now it's about the present, about these two beautiful girls who need a safe place to sleep." The twins observed the interaction with curiosity, and one of them, the one who had been crying moments before, sketched a small smile. Michael realized she had the same smile as her mother, the one that had enchanted him so much years ago. With a gesture, he called his private driver who was parked nearby. The man quickly brought the black Mercedes to where they were. Michael extended his hand to Emily, a gesture that symbolized much more than help to stand up. It was an offer of a new beginning. Emily looked at her daughters, then at Michael's outstretched hand, and finally at his eyes. In them she found not pity or contempt, but genuine concern and something more, something that reminded her of the shy boy who used to observe her in school with unrequited admiration. With a sigh that carried the weight of all her struggles, she accepted his hand. The girls stood up with her, still clinging to her skirt. Michael led them to the car, ensuring they were comfortable in the back seat. As the vehicle glided smoothly through Boston traffic, Michael observed Emily's face in the rearview mirror as she protectively embraced her daughters. She had changed a lot since school days, but something in her gaze still held that strength that had always fascinated him. Now, he would have the chance to get to know the real Emily, not the popular girl from school, but the woman who fought, with all her might, to protect her daughters. Fate had given them a second chance, and Michael was determined not to waste it. The imposing gate of the Anderson mansion opened automatically, revealing a meticulously maintained garden. Emily clasped her hands in her lap, feeling out of place as the car traveled along the extensive driveway. Sophie and Lily, the twins, pressed their little faces against the window, marveling at the marble fountain that decorated the main entrance. "Welcome to my home," Michael said softly, observing their reaction in the rearview mirror. The afternoon sun tinted the sky in orange tones, making the mansion appear even more imposing. Emily couldn't believe that just 2 hours ago, she had been sitting on a cold sidewalk with no prospects for the future. When the car stopped, a middle-aged woman, dressed in an impeccable uniform, was already waiting at the door. "Mrs. Martha, please prepare the guest room in the east wing for our guests," Michael instructed, helping Emily and the girls out of the vehicle. "It's very kind of you, Michael, but we can't stay long," Emily began, but was interrupted by the smell of food coming from the kitchen, making the girls' stomachs audibly rumble. Michael smiled gently. "First, let's eat something. Then we can talk about the length of stay." His tone left no room for arguments, and Emily found herself nodding, while the twins were already eagerly following Martha toward the kitchen. The housekeeper quickly prepared a substantial snack: fresh bread, fruits, natural juice, coffee, milk, and even pancakes with honey. The girls ate eagerly, but without forgetting the manners their mother had always taught them, even in the most difficult times. Emily watched her daughters with contained tears, feeling a mixture of relief and shame. "They are very well behaved," Michael commented, sitting next to her at the kitchen table. "What are their names?" "Sophie and Lily," Emily replied, a small smile appearing on her lips. "Sophie is the older one by 2 minutes, and she doesn't let her sister forget it." If to confirm, Sophie proudly raised her chin, making Michael laugh. It was the first genuinely cheerful sound Emily had heard in a long time, and something inside her warmed with that laughter. "Mr. Anderson," Martha respectfully interrupted, "the room is ready. I've also set aside some clothes that belonged to my granddaughter. I think they'll fit the girls." "Excellent, Martha, and please prepare a hot bath for them." Michael turned to Emily. "You need rest too. We can talk tomorrow, calmly." Emily wanted to protest, to say they had already taken too much advantage of his kindness, but the weariness of months on the streets weighed in her bones. "Thank you," was all she managed to say. Martha led mother and daughters to a spacious room on the second floor. The walls in soft blue tones and the view of the garden created a welcoming atmosphere. 2 twin beds were prepared for the girls, and a queen-size bed for Emily. While the twins took a bath amid laughter and games with the foam, Emily remained seated on the edge of the bed, lost in thought. How had she reached this point? 5 years ago, she had a stable job, a comfortable apartment, and dreams for the future. Now she depended on the charity of the boy she used to ignore in school, Michael. He had changed so much. The shy, awkward teenager had given way to a confident and successful man. But his eyes still had that same kindness she had pretended not to notice so many years ago. After the bath, dressed in clean pajamas, the girls nestled in bed, fatigue finally overcoming them. Emily covered them lovingly, kissing their foreheads. "Good night, my loves." "Mommy," Lily murmured sleepily, "can we stay here? It's so warm." Emily's heart tightened. "For now, my love. For now." When she came out of her own bath, wearing a silk pajama set that Martha had set aside, she found a note on the bedside table. Michael's elegant handwriting said, "Rest easy. Tomorrow will be a new day. If you need anything during the night, my room is at the end of the corridor to the right. M." Emily carefully folded the note, putting it in her pajama pocket. Lying on the soft bed, watching her daughters sleeping serenely for the first time in months, she allowed herself to cry silently. They were not just tears of sadness or shame, but also of relief and perhaps hope. Outside the room, Michael remained for a few moments, his hand against the wall, as if he could feel through it the weight of Emily's concerns. 15 years. For Gosu, she was the unattainable girl who populated his teenage dreams. Now fate had brought her back into his life in a way he could never have imagined. As he walked to his own room, Michael made a silent promise. He would find out what had happened to Emily and would do everything in his power to help her rebuild her life. Not because of an old unrequited crush, but because something in his heart told him this encounter was not mere coincidence. Night fell over the Anderson mansion, bringing with it the promise of a new dawn. And, for the first time in a long time, both Emily and Michael slept with the feeling that something important was about to begin. The morning sun filtered through the silk curtains when Emily woke up, momentarily disoriented by the unfamiliar environment. The twins were still sleeping deeply, their little faces serene for the first time in a long time. She checked the clock on the wall, 7:30 in the morning. She got up silently and approached the window. The garden of the Anderson mansion extended majestically under the golden light of dawn. A movement caught her attention. Michael was walking among the rose bushes, dressed casually in sweatpants and a t-shirt, something so different from the impeccable executive of the day before. "Excuse me, ma'am." Martha's soft voice startled her. The housekeeper entered the room carrying a tray with breakfast. "Mr. Anderson asked me to prepare something special for you. Please just call me Emily," she replied, embarrassed by so much care. "And you didn't have to go to the trouble." "It's no trouble at all," Martha smiled, placing the tray on a nearby table. "Actually, it's good to see a bit of life in this big house. Mr. Michael has lived alone since his parents moved to Europe 5 years ago." Emily absorbed the information as she observed the plentiful tray: fresh bread, fruits, natural juice, coffee, milk, and even pancakes with honey. The twins, as if they sensed the aroma, began to wake up. "Mommy," Sophie called, rubbing her eyes. "This wasn't a dream." "No, my love," Emily replied, helping the girls to sit up. "Shall we have breakfast?" While the children ate animatedly, Emily allowed herself to relax a little. Martha had also brought clean clothes for all of them. Simple but elegant dresses for the girls, and a skirt and blouse set for her. "Mr. Michael asked me to let you know that he'll be in his office this morning, but would like to talk to you. After lunch, if possible," Martha informed, discreetly organizing the room. Emily nodded, feeling anxiety grow. She knew she would need to explain her situation, but how to tell a story that she herself didn't fully understand. The morning passed peacefully. The girls discovered a TV room with cartoons, and Emily took the opportunity to watch them playing, something they hadn't been able to do for months. From time to time, she caught herself looking out the window, seeing Michael in meetings through the windows of his office on the first floor. After lunch, served in the winter garden, Martha took the twins to see the orchid nursery, leaving Emily and Michael finally alone. "Are you more rested?" he asked gently, indicating a bench near the fountain. Emily sat down, nervously smoothing her skirt. "Yes, thank you for everything. But Michael, I need to explain." "You don't need to tell anything you don't want to," he interrupted softly. "No, you deserve to know." She took a deep breath. "After school, I entered business administration in college. That's where I met Richard. He was charismatic, the son of an important businessman. We fell in love, or at least I thought it was love." Michael listened attentively, noticing how her hands trembled slightly. "When I became pregnant at 22, Richard completely changed. He said he wasn't ready to be a father, that I had planned everything to catch him. When we discovered they were twins, he simply disappeared. His family offered me money to resolve the situation. But I already loved my daughters." Tear rolled down Emily's face, which she quickly wiped away. "My parents stood by me initially, but when I refused Richard's family's money, they didn't understand. They said I was throwing away my future. I ended up leaving home, determined to raise my daughters alone." "Did you find a job?" Michael asked softly. "Yes, as an administrative assistant. It paid little, but it was enough to maintain a small apartment and the basic necessities. The girls stayed in a daycare during the day." Emily smiled sadly. For 3 years we managed to get by until Sophie got sick. Michael leaned slightly forward, his expression showing concern. Severe pneumonia. I had to miss a lot of work to take care of her in the hospital. When I returned, I had been replaced. I tried other jobs, but with 2 small children, it was difficult. The savings ran out. I couldn't pay the rent anymore. Her voice failed. How long were you on the street? Michael asked, his voice contained. 3 months. We stayed in shelters when we could get a spot, but usually slept in a church that let us use the parish hall. I did some cleaning jobs, but it barely provided food. Michael rose abruptly, walking a few steps. Emily could see the tension in his shoulders. Why didn't you seek help? Your parents... I tried, she admitted, but they said they would only help me if I left the girls with them and went to rebuild my life, as if I could abandon my daughters. Turning to her, Michael had a determined expression. Emily, I want to help, not out of pity or because of the past, but because no one should go through what you went through, especially not with 2 children. I can't accept... Yes, you can, he interrupted firmly. I have a proposal. Stay. Here with the girls, at least for now. There's a refresher course in business administration starting next month at the college near here. You can take it, and while that, work part-time in my company. The girls can attend the private school. And as by, I've already checked, they have openings. Emily stared at him astonished. Why are you doing this? Michael smiled, that smile she was beginning to recognize as genuinely his. Because everyone deserves a second chance, and because... He hesitated briefly. Because maybe fate has its own plans in reuniting us. From the nursery came the sound of the twins' laughter, mixed with Martha's affectionate voice. Emily looked at her hands, then at the man in front of her. No longer the shy boy from school, but someone who offered much more than help. He offered hope. All right, she whispered, finally allowing herself a genuine smile. Let's try. What? Emily didn't know was that at that moment, Michael was making a silent promise to himself. He would do everything to see that smile more often, no matter what it took. The following weeks brought a completely new routine for Emily and her daughters. The Anderson mansion, previously quiet and almost empty, now echoed with the twins' laughter and the sound of little feet running down the corridors. For Michael, it was as if the house finally came to life. On a sunny Monday morning, Emily was preparing for her first day of work at Michael's company. Dressed in a navy blue business suit that Martha had helped choose, she looked in the mirror, almost not recognizing the woman reflected. "You look beautiful, Mommy," Sophie exclaimed, entering the room with Lily. Both were already ready in their new school uniforms. Emily smiled, kneeling to hug her daughters. "Thank you, my loves. Are you excited for your first day of school?" Lily made a face. "What if the other kids don't like us?" "Impossible not to like you," Michael's voice sounded from the door. He entered, impeccable in his grey suit, carrying 3 roses, 1 red and 2 pink. "For the most important women in this house," he said, handing out the flowers. Emily felt her face flush upon receiving the red rose, noting Michael's intense gaze. The girls, enchanted with their roses, didn't notice the moment. Breakfast was lively, with the twins asking 1,000 questions about the new school. Michael, with a patience that surprised Emily, answered each one. "Remember," he said to the girls as they got into the car, "if you need anything, just call me or Mommy. The teacher has our numbers." On the way, they dropped the twins off at school. Emily felt a tightness in her heart, seeing them entering hand in hand, but was surprised to feel Michael's hand over hers. "They'll be fine," he assured. "They're brave like their mother." The offices of Anderson Enterprises occupied the 3 top floors of a modern building in the financial heart of Boston. Emily felt intimidated upon entering the imposing lobby, but Michael remained by her side, proudly introducing her to the employees. "This is Emily Davis, our new social projects analyst," he announced to the assembled team. "She will lead our corporate social responsibility initiative." Emily stared at him, surprised. It wasn't the position they had initially discussed. "Michael, I trust you," he whispered, before heading to his own meeting. The hours flew. Emily immersed herself in work, reviewing projects and proposing new ideas. Her life experience brought a unique perspective that impressed her colleagues. At the end of the day, exhausted but fulfilled, Emily found Michael waiting for her in the parking lot. "How was it?" he asked, opening the car door for her. "Amazing," she admitted. But Michael, that positioned it wasn't what we had agreed on. He started the car before responding. "I saw your resume, Emily. You were brilliant in college. Hand your ideas today. It's exactly what the company needs. You deserve this position." The way back was filled with animated conversation about the workday. Upon arriving home, they were greeted by Sophie and Lily, who ran to tell about their day at school. "We made a friend," Lily exclaimed. "Her name is Beatrice. And the teacher said we're very smart," Sophie added proudly. During dinner, prepared with care by Martha, Michael observed the interaction between Emily and the girls. There was a lightness in her that didn't exist weeks ago. Her eyes sparkled. When she talked about work and her smile, that smile made his heart race. Later, with the girls already in bed, Emily found Michael on the balcony, contemplating the illuminated city. "Thank you," she said softly, stopping beside him. "For all. To this. For the chance, for the trust." Michael turned to her, his gaze intense. "Emily, you don't need to thank me. Seeing you and the girls happy, that's more than I could ask for." There was a moment of silence laden with emotion. Emily felt her heart race when Michael took a step toward her. "I know it's still early," he began hesitantly, "but I want you to know that I'm here, not just as a boss or friend, but as someone who cares deeply about you." Emily felt tears forming in her eyes. "Michael, I'm so afraid of trusting, of getting hurt again." He gently touched her face, wiping away a tear that had escaped. "I won't pressure you, we have time. I just want you to know that when you're ready, I'll be here." In that moment, under the stars of Boston, Emily felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Hope. Not just for herself, but for a future. Gillett, for the first time in a long time, seemed bright and full of possibilities. As they returned inside, side by side, both knew that something had changed. The path ahead was still uncertain, but now they had each other to walk it. In the quietness of the night, the Anderson mansion sheltered not just a family in formation, but also the beginning of a love story that defied time and circumstances. The Boston autumn painted the trees in the garden of the Anderson mansion in shades of red and gold. It had been 2 months since Emily and the twins had arrived, and the change was palpable not only in the house, but in the lives of everyone involved. Emily was in her office at Anderson Enterprises, focused on an important presentation. Her social responsibility project, focused on helping single mothers return to the workforce, had caught the attention of the board. Today she would present the final proposal. "You're going to nail it," Michael said, stopping at her office door. His smile was a mixture of pride and something more, something that made Emily's heart race. "Thank you," she replied, returning the smile. "I'm nervous, but confident." The meeting was a success. Emily's passion for the project was evident, and her personal experience brought a unique perspective that impressed even the most skeptical directors. When she finished, there was a moment of silence before the room exploded in applause. "Approved unanimously," the CFO announced, smiling. "Congratulations, Ms. Davis. This project will change many lives." As the directors left, Michael approached Emily. "You were amazing," he whispered, his hand lightly touching her back. The moment was interrupted by the abrupt arrival of Vanessa Mitchell, the ambitious marketing manager. "Congratulations, Emily," she said, her tone not matching the words. "What? That's an interesting project. I imagine your personal experience was quite useful." Emily felt her body stiffen. There was something in Vanessa's tone that bothered her. "Thank you, Vanessa. I believe our experiences shape our worldview and our work." "Certainly," Vanessa replied, her gaze alternating between Emily and Michael. "Well, I'm sure everyone is curious to see how this project develops." With a forced smile, she withdrew. "Don't mind her," Michael said, noticing Emily's tension. "Vanessa has always been competitive." Emily nodded, but couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Later that day, Emily left early to pick up the twins from school. Upon arriving, she found Sophie arguing heatedly with an older boy, while Lily watched, frightened. "What's going on here?" Emily asked, approaching quickly. "He said we're liars," Sophie exclaimed, tears of anger in her eyes. "He said it's impossible for us to live in the Anderson mansion, and that we're making up stories." Emily felt her heart tighten. She knelt down, hugging both daughters. "Don't listen to what he says, my loves. You know the truth." On the way home, the girls were unusually quiet. Emily tried to initiate a light conversation, but her thoughts were in turmoil. How to explain to her daughters the complexity of their situation? Upon arriving at the mansion, they found Michael waiting at the entrance, a worried expression on his face. "Emily, we need to talk," he said, his tone serious. In the office, Michael showed her a series of anonymous messages sent to the company's board. The messages insinuated that Emily had gotten the position through questionable means, and that her story of overcoming was fabricated. "This is absurd," Emily exclaimed, feeling betrayed and exposed. "How can anyone think this?" Michael held her hands, trying to calm her. "I know it's a lie. Everyone who really knows you knows that. But we need to deal with this professionally." "Do you think it was Vanessa?" Emily asked, remembering the strange encounter after the meeting. Michael sighed. "We can't accuse anyone without proof, but I'll investigate discreetly." That night, lying in her bed, Emily couldn't sleep. The accusations, the incident at the girls' school, everything seemed to conspire against the happiness she was finally achieving. She got up silently and went to the balcony. To her surprise, Michael was already there, looking at the city lights. Upon seeing her, he opened his arms, and Emily, without hesitation, nestled into them. "Everything will be okay," he murmured against her hair. "We'll get through this together." Emily raised her face, meeting Michael's gaze. There was so much sincerity, so much devotion in those eyes. Before she realized what she was doing, she leaned in and kissed him. The kiss was soft, hesitant at first, but soon deepened, laden with long-held emotions. When they separated, both were breathless. I'm sorry," Emily began, "but Michael—" gently interrupted her. "Don't be," he said, caressing her face. "I've been wanting to do that for weeks." They stood there, embraced on the balcony, while the city slept around them. Emily knew the challenges were still there, the accusations at the company, the problems at the girls' school, her own fears and insecurities, but for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel alone in facing them. "Tomorrow," Michael said softly, "we'll face all this together." Emily nodded, allowing herself for a moment to believe that everything would be fine. The path ahead was uncertain, but with Michael by her side and the love of her daughters, she felt strong enough to face any storm. As they went back inside, hand in hand, Emily made a silent promise to herself. She would fight for this new chance, at happiness no matter what lay ahead. The next morning brought with it a mixture of anxiety and expectation. Emily woke up early, mentally reviewing the events of the previous night. The kiss with Michael had changed something fundamental between them, and she didn't know exactly how to act. As she went down for breakfast, she found Michael already at the table, reading the newspaper. Their gazes met, and a shy smile appeared on both faces. "Good morning," he said softly, pulling out the chair next to him for her. "Did you sleep well?" "More or less," Emily admitted, sitting down. "I have a lot on my mind." Michael placed his hand over hers. "We'll solve everything, one step at a time." The twins arrived shortly after, excited about the day ahead. Emily noticed that Sophie seemed particularly determined. "Mommy," the girl said while eating her pancakes, "can I take some photos of us to school today?" Emily exchanged a worried look with Michael. "Why, dear?" "To show Gavin that we're not lying," Sophie replied with conviction. "He'll see that we really do live here." Lily, always quieter, added, "Bea said she'll defend us if anyone says stupid things again." Michael leaned in, looking seriously at the girls. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. What matters is that we know the truth. Emily felt a wave of gratitude for Michael. He's right, my loves. But if you want to take the photos, that's fine. Just remember, you are strong and special, no matter what others say. On the way to school, Emily talked with the girls about how to handle teasing, emphasizing the importance of staying united and confident. Upon arriving at the company, Michael and Emily were immediately called to an emergency meeting with the board. The atmosphere in the room was tense. "Mr. Anderson, Ms. Davis," began the board president, Mr. Thompson, "the accusations we've received are serious. We need to clarify this situation immediately." Emily felt her stomach churn, but maintained her composure. "Gentlemen, I understand the seriousness of the situation. I'm willing to provide any information necessary to prove my integrity and competence." Michael intervened. "I've already initiated an internal investigation. I believe we'll have answers soon." The meeting extended for hours. Emily presented her professional history, explained in detail her trajectory and how she came to the company. Michael, in turn, vehemently defended the decision to hire her and the importance of her project. When they finally left the room, both were exhausted. In the corridor, they found Vanessa, who was observing them with an enigmatic smile. "Tough day?" she asked, her voice loaded with false sympathy. Michael took a step forward, his voice low and controlled. "Vanessa, if you have anything to do with these accusations—" "Careful, Michael," she interrupted, still smiling. "Don't make accusations without proof. That could be as problematic." Emily placed a hand on Michael's arm, calming him. "Come on, we have work to do." At the end of the afternoon, while Emily was organizing some documents in her office, she heard a commotion in the corridor. Upon going out to check, she saw Vanessa being escorted out of the building by security, a look of fury on her face. Michael appeared moments later, looking relieved and tired. "We found the proof. Vanessa was behind the anonymous messages. She thought she deserved your position and tried to sabotage you." Emily felt a mixture of relief and sadness. "I'm glad the truth came out, but it's sad to see someone ruin their career out of envy." They stood in silence for a moment, processing the day's events. Then, almost hesitantly, Michael approached Emily. "With all this happening, we didn't have a chance to talk about last night," he said softly. Emily felt her heart race. "Michael, But before she could continue, Emily's phone rang. It was from the girls' school. "Ms. Davis, there was an incident with Sophie. We need you to come immediately." Panic took hold of Emily. Michael, perceiving her concern, immediately grabbed the car keys. "Let's go, I'll drive." At the school, they found Sophie sitting in the principal's office with a mixed look of defiance and fear. Lily was by her side, holding her hand. "What happened?" Emily asked, hugging her daughters. The principal sighed. "Sophie got into a fight with Gavin. Apparently he made some unpleasant comments about your situation, and Sophie, well, she pushed him." Michael knelt in front of Sophie. "Is that true, little one?" Sophie, with tears in her eyes, nodded. "He said Mommy was a gold digger, that we were deceiving everyone. I couldn't let him talk like that." Emily felt a mixture of pride and concern. "Sophie, I understand why you got angry, but we can't solve things with violence." The principal intervened. "Considering the circumstances, we won't take disciplinary measures this time. But Sophie needs to understand that violence is never the answer." On the way back home, the car was silent. Emily looked at the girls through the rearview mirror, her heart heavy with everything they were going through. Once at home, after the girls went to their room, Emily collapsed on the sofa, the emotions of the day finally catching up with her. Michael sat beside her, wrapping her in his arms. "It's been difficult for all of us," he murmured, "but we're in this together." Emily raised her face, meeting Michael's gaze. "Are we really? Michael, what's happening between us? With all this, I'm afraid of—" He interrupted her with a soft kiss. "Emily, I know it's complicated, that you're afraid, but what I feel for you and the girls, it's real, and I'm willing to face anything to make this work." In that moment, embraced by Michael, Emily allowed herself to believe that despite all the challenges, they could build something true and lasting. The journey would be difficult, but for the first time in a long time, she wasn't alone. Outside, night fell over Boston, and in the Anderson mansion, an unconventional family was beginning to strengthen, united by love and the determination to overcome any obstacle. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the kitchen of the Anderson mansion on a sunny Saturday morning. Emily, still in her pajamas, watched the twins playing in the garden through the window. Michael entered silently, hugging her from behind. "Good morning," he murmured, softly kissing her neck. "What are you thinking about?" Emily smiled, leaning against him. "About how everything changed so quickly. Sometimes it feels like a dream." The past few weeks had been a whirlwind of emotions. After the incident at school and the revelation about Vanessa, Emily and Michael decided to be more open about their relationship, both with the girls and at work. Sophie and Lily reacted with a mixture of enthusiasm and caution. "Are you going to get married?" Sophie asked directly one night during dinner, making Emily choke on her wine. "We're getting to know each other better, dear," Michael replied calmly. "What matters is that we all love and care for each other." Lily, always more observant, commented, "But you already look at Mommy like the prince looks at the princess in movies." This observation made both Emily and Michael blush, to the delight of the girls. At work, things were also adjusting. With Vanessa out of the company, the environment became lighter. Emily's project was progressing well, gaining recognition, not only within Anderson Enterprises, but also in the market. "What do you think about a picnic today?" Michael suggested, bringing Emily back to the present. "The day is beautiful. We could go to the park." "Great idea." Emily agreed, turning to kiss him. Hours later, the small family was enjoying a sunny afternoon in the park. The twins ran and played, occasionally returning to grab a sandwich or a piece of fruit. "Mommy, look!" Sophie shouted, pointing to a group of people practicing yoga near them. "Can we try?" Emily laughed. "Sure, my love. Let's go." Soon, the four were trying, with varying degrees of success, to imitate the instructor's positions. Michael, in particular, seemed to have difficulty maintaining balance, to the great amusement of the girls. It was in this moment of carefree joy that Emily saw him. Standing a few meters away, observing them with an indecipherable expression, was Richard, the twins' father. The shock made her lose her balance, falling seated on the grass. Michael immediately ran to help her. "Emily, what happened?" he asked, concerned. She couldn't find the words, just pointed in Richard's direction. Michael followed her gaze, his expression changing from confusion to understanding, and then to contained anger. The twins, oblivious to the sudden tension, continued playing. Emily stood up shakily, holding Michael's hand tightly. Richard began to approach slowly. He was well dressed, as always, but there was something different in his eyes, remorse perhaps. "Emily," he said when he was close enough, "I didn't expect to find you here." "What do you want, Richard?" Emily's voice came out firmer than she expected. He hesitated, looking at the twins, who had now stopped playing and were watching the scene with curiosity. "I've been back in Boston for a few weeks. I've been thinking a lot and wanted to try to fix things." Michael stepped forward, placing himself partially between Emily and Richard. "I think you've caused enough damage." Richard seemed to notice Michael for the first time. His eyes narrowed slightly. "And you are—" "Michael Anderson," he replied, coldly. "Emily's partner and the girl's father in all the ways that matter." The tension in the air was palpable. Emily felt her heart pounding in her chest. The twins approached, clutching at her legs. "Mommy," Lily asked quietly, "who is this man?" Emily swallowed hard, exchanging a quick glance with Michael. She knelt down, hugging her daughters. "Girls, this is Richard. He's your biological father." Sophie looked at Richard with a mixture of curiosity and distrust. "You're the man who abandoned Mommy." Richard seemed to wilt at the direct question. "I made many mistakes, but I'm here to try to fix things." Emily stood up, her voice trembling slightly. "Richard, now is not the time or place for this conversation. If you really want to discuss this, we can schedule a time, with our lawyers present." Michael nodded, supporting Emily's decision. Richard seemed to want to argue, but after looking at the girls again, reluctantly agreed. "All right, can I call you to set it up?" Emily nodded briefly. Richard cast one last look at the twins before walking away, leaving a heavy silence behind. The girls immediately began asking questions, their voices overlapping in confusion and curiosity. Emily felt overwhelmed, but Michael intervened. "How about we go back home? We can have hot chocolate and talk about this calmly," he suggested, his voice gentle but firm. On the way back, the car was silent. Emily looked out the window, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. Michael held her hand, offering silent support. At home, after settling the girls with hot chocolate and cookies, Emily and Michael retreated to the balcony for a private conversation. "What are you thinking?" Michael asked softly. Emily sighed deeply. "Honestly, I don't know. Part of me wants to scream at him to expel him from our lives. Another part thinks about the girls. Do they have the right to know their biological father?" Michael hugged her. "We don't need to decide anything now. The important thing is that we're together in this. Whatever your decision, I'll support you." Emily looked into Michael's eyes, seeing in them all the love and support she had always wanted. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know what I'd do without you." As the sun set on the Boston horizon, Emily knew they had a long road ahead. Richard's sudden appearance brought up complex questions about family, forgiveness, and the future. But looking at Michael, at the girls through the living room window, she felt a certainty grow in her heart. Together, they could face any challenge. Night fell over the Anderson mansion, bringing with it the promise of challenging days, but also the hope of a love strong enough to overcome any obstacle. The week following the park encounter was tense in the Anderson mansion. Emily oscillated between moments of anxiety and determination, while Michael did his best to maintain normalcy for the twins. Sophie and Lily, in turn, were full of questions that weren't always easy to answer. One night, after putting the girls to bed, Emily found Michael in his office immersed in papers. "What's all this?" she asked, noticing his concentrated expression. Michael sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I've been researching paternal rights and shared custody. I want to be prepared for any scenario." Emily felt a wave of gratitude and love for him. She approached, gently massaging his tense shoulders. "You didn't have to do this alone." "I know," he replied, holding her hand, "but I want to protect you three in any way I can." The next day, Emily decided it was time to have a serious conversation with the twins. After dinner, she gathered them in the living room. "Girls," she began, sitting between them on the sofa, "I know you have many questions about Richard." Sophie, always the most direct, didn't hesitate. "Why does he want to know us now? Why not before?" Emily took a deep breath. "Sometimes people make mistakes and take time to realize it. Richard made choices that hurt all of us, but now he says he wants to fix things." Lily, who had been quiet until then, asked in a low voice, "Is he going to try to take us away from you and Uncle Michael?" The question hit Emily like a punch. She pulled them both into a tight hug. "Never, my loves. No one will ever separate us. Uncle Michael and I will do everything to keep our family together." Michael, who was watching the scene from the door, entered and joined the embrace. "So you are the most important thing in the world to us," he stated, his voice full of emotion. In the days that followed, Emily and Michael had several discussions about how to handle the situation. Finally, they decided to schedule a meeting with Richard in the presence of their lawyers. The meeting was set for an afternoon in the office of Emily's lawyer. When she and Michael arrived, Richard was already there, looking nervous but determined. "Thank you for agreeing to see me," he began, as soon as everyone was seated. Emily maintained a neutral expression. "What exactly do you want, Richard?" He hesitated for a moment before answering. "I want to be part of the girls' lives. I know I made terrible mistakes, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to fix things." Michael leaned forward, his voice controlled but firm. "And what makes you think you have that right after all these years?" Richard seemed to shrink a bit. went through a lot in the past few years, therapy mainly. I realized how selfish and cowardly I was. I want to have the chance to be the father they deserve. Emily felt a mixture of emotions, anger, hurt, but also a twinge of pity. Richard, the girls are almost 6 years old. They have an established life, a routine. We can't just turn everything upside down. Emily's lawyer intervened. Legally, Mr. Taylor, your prolonged absence and lack of financial support may complicate any request for custody or visitation. Richard nodded. I understand. I'm not asking for custody, just the chance to get to know them, to be part of their lives somehow. After hours of discussion, they reached a preliminary agreement. Richard could have supervised visits once a week for 2 hours. Any increase in this time would depend on how things progressed and, more importantly, on how the girls felt. Leaving the meeting, Emily felt emotionally exhausted. Michael hugged her, softly kissing her forehead. You were amazing in there, he murmured, so strong and focused on the girls' well-being. Emily allowed herself to relax in his arms. I don't know if I made the right decision. What if this confuses the girls? What if he disappears again? Michael made her look into his eyes. Emily, you're giving your daughters the chance to know a part of their history. That's an act of love and courage. And no matter what happens, they'll always have us. That night, after telling the girls about the arrangement with Richard, Emily found herself on the balcony, looking at the city lights. Michael joined her, wrapping her in his arms. What are you thinking? He asked softly. Emily sighed. About how unpredictable life is. A year ago I was on the streets without hope. Now I'm here with you, facing challenges I never imagined. Michael turned her to face him. Emily, I love you. I love the girls as if they were my own daughters. No matter what happens with Richard or any other obstacle that appears, we're in this together. Looking into Michael's eyes, Emily felt a wave of certainty. Regardless of the challenges that would come, she was no longer alone. They had built something strong, something real. I love you too, she replied, sealing the declaration with a deep kiss. As the night progressed, Emily knew the future was uncertain. The reintroduction of Richard into their lives would bring challenges, no doubt. But with Michael by her side, and unconditional love for her daughters guiding every decision, she felt ready to face whatever came. The Anderson mansion, once a symbol of loneliness for Michael, now pulsed with life and love. And even with the shadows of the past threatening on the horizon, the light of the present shone bright, promising a future full of possibilities. The day of Richard's first visit came faster than Emily would have liked. The Anderson mansion was immersed in an atmosphere of contained nervousness. The twins, dressed in their favorite clothes, alternated between moments of excitement and apprehension. What if he doesn't like us? Lily asked quietly, while Emily braided her hair. Emily felt her heart tighten. My love, that's impossible. You are wonderful. And remember, the most important thing is how you feel, okay? Sophie, who was watching from the bedroom door, crossed her arms. I still think we don't need him. We already have Uncle Michael. Emily sighed, calling Sophie close. Dear, Uncle Michael loves you very much, and that will never change. Getting to know Richard doesn't change any of that. It's just a chance to understand a part of your story. Michael appeared in the hallway, his face a mask of calm that didn't completely hide his concern. It's time, Richard has arrived. Emily took a deep breath, composing herself. Let's go, girls. They descended the stairs together, a small, united family facing the unknown. Richard waited in the living room, visibly nervous, holding a large, wrapped package. Hello, he said softly, his gaze passing from Emily to the girls. It's good to see you. Sophie stepped forward, her eyes curious but cautious. Hi, I'm Sophie. This is my sister, Lily. Richard smiled tremulously. I know. You have grown so much. An uncomfortable silence settled, broken by Michael. How about we go to the garden? It's a beautiful day. In the garden, Richard tried to initiate a conversation. I brought something for you, he said, extending the package. The girls looked at Emily, who nodded encouragingly. Together, they unwrapped the present, revealing 2 identical teddy bears. "Thank you," Lily murmured, hugging the bear. Sophie, however, frowned. "Why are they the same? We're not the same inside." Richard seemed disconcerted. "I thought that being twins. They may be identical on the outside, but they have very different personalities," Emily intervened softly. "Sophie loves sciences and wants to be an astronaut. Lily is passionate about art and music." Richard's eyes widened with the information. "I didn't know, well, maybe next time I can bring something more personalized." The mention of a next time seemed to hang in the air, laden with possibilities and uncertainties. The visit proceeded tensely, with Richard trying to connect with the girls through generic questions about school and hobbies. Michael remained nearby, a silent but comforting presence for Emily and the twins. When the 2 hours came to an end, there was a mix of relief and confusion in the air. Richard said goodbye awkwardly, promising to return the following week. As soon as he left, Sophie threw herself into Michael's arms. "Uncle Mike, you're still going to be our dad, right?" Michael hugged her tightly, his voice choked with emotion. "Always, princess, always." That night, after putting the girls to bed, Emily found Michael on the balcony, an untouched glass of whiskey in his hand. "How are you?" she asked, sitting beside him. Michael sighed deeply. "Honestly, conflicted. Part of me wants to support this reconnection for the girls' sake. Another is afraid of losing them," Emily completed softly. He nodded, finally taking a sip of the drink. "It's irrational, I know, but seeing him there, trying to connect with them, it was harder than I expected." Emily took his hand, intertwining their fingers. "Michael, you are their father in all the ways that matter. Nothing will change that." He pulled her close, kissing her softly. "Thank you for being my rock in this storm." In the days that followed, Emily immersed herself in work, channeling her conflicting emotions into her project at Anderson Enterprises. Her initiative to support single mothers was gaining national recognition, and she was invited to give a lecture at an important social responsibility congress. The night before the lecture, as Emily reviewed her notes, Michael entered the office with a small box in his hands. "I have something for you," he said, a mysterious smile on his lips. Emily opened the box, revealing a delicate necklace with a tree-shaped pendant. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Michael placed it around her neck, his hands lingering on her shoulders. "The tree represents strength, growth, and family. Everything you are." Moved, Emily turned to face him. "Michael, He placed a finger on her lips, gently silencing her. "Emily, these past few months have been an amazing journey. You've brought light and love into my life in a way I never imagined possible." He paused, his eyes shining with emotion. "I know we're going through a complicated time with Richard's return, but I want you to know that my love for you and the girls only grows each day." Emily felt tears forming in her eyes. "Michael, you're the best man I've ever known. I don't know what I did to deserve you." He smiled, drying a tear that ran down her cheek. "You are extraordinary, Emily, and tomorrow at that lecture the world will see what I see every day, a strong, compassionate, and brilliant woman." They kissed deeply, all the love and gratitude they felt for each other expressed in that gesture. The next morning, when Emily took the stage for her lecture, she touched the pendant on her neck, feeling strengthened not only by her own experiences, but by the unconditional love she had found. As she spoke about resilience, second chances, and the power of support communities, Emily knew she was not only sharing her story, but also opening paths for other women who, like her, deserved a chance to rebuild their lives. The success of the lecture was immediate. Offers of partnerships and expansion of the project began to arrive, promising new challenges and opportunities. Meanwhile, at the Anderson mansion, life continued its complex dance. Richard's visits became a regular, if sometimes uncomfortable, part of the routine. The twins slowly began to open up, although Sophie maintained a constant guard. With each new challenge, each moment of doubt or celebration, Emily and Michael grew closer. Their relationship, forged in extraordinary circumstances, proved stronger each day. And so, between the ups and downs of life, between work demands and family challenges, Emily discovered a profound truth. Love, in all its complex forms, was the most powerful force of transformation. And with that love as a compass, she was ready to navigate any waters the future might bring. The office of Emily at Anderson Enterprises was bustling with activity. After the success of her lecture at the Social Responsibility Congress, her project had gained national dimensions. Partnership proposals arrived daily, and she found herself divided between excitement for the new possibilities and concern about balancing work and family. Emily? The voice of her assistant, Rebecca, brought her back to the present. "Mr. Anderson would like to see you in his office." With a smile of thanks, Emily headed to Michael's office. Even after months of relationship, her heart still raced when she saw him. "You wanted to see me?" she asked, closing the door behind her. Michael stood up, his face a mixture of pride and something more, anxiety. "Emily, I just received a call from the Global Change Foundation. They want to expand your project throughout Latin America." Emily felt her breath falter. "That's amazing. But how would it work?" "They're proposing that you lead the expansion," Michael continued, his voice carefully neutral. "This would mean frequent travel, perhaps even a temporary move to other countries." The silence that followed was laden with unspoken emotions. The opportunity was extraordinary, a dream for any social entrepreneur. But the implications for her personal life— "I need to think," Emily finally responded. "Talk with the girls, with you." Michael nodded, approaching to hug her. "Of course. Take the time you need. I'll be here, no matter what you decide." That night, at home, the atmosphere was tense. It was Richard's visiting day, and the twins were more agitated than normal. "Dad, look what I drew at school today," Lily exclaimed, showing a colorful drawing to Richard. Emily noticed how the use of the word "dad" made Michael stiffen slightly beside her. In the past 2 months, the girls had begun to refer to Richard as Dad, while Michael remained Uncle Mike. It was a delicate dynamic that everyone was still learning to navigate. "It's beautiful, Lily," Richard praised, genuinely impressed. "So you have a real talent?" Sophie, who was observing the scene with her usual caution, finally spoke up. "Uncle Mike, can you help me with my science project later?" "Of course, Princess," Michael responded promptly, a smile lighting up his face. Richard seemed momentarily displaced, but recovered quickly. "What kind of project is it, Sophie? Maybe I can help too." The girl hesitated, looking between Richard and Michael. "It's about the solar system. Uncle Mike always helps me with science things." The moment of tension was interrupted by Martha, announcing that dinner was ready. During the meal, Emily observed the interaction between everyone, her heart heavy with the decision she needed to make. Later, after Richard's departure, and with the girls in bed, Emily and Michael found themselves on the balcony, their usual refuge for important conversations. "You're quiet," Michael commented softly. "Still." Thinking about the proposal, Emily nodded, turning to face him. "It's an incredible opportunity, Michael. We could help so many women, so many families. But the girls, I don't know if I can leave everything behind." Michael took her hands, his eyes full of love and understanding. "Emily, you've built something extraordinary. Your project is changing lives. Whatever your decision, I'll be by your side. But what if—" She hesitated, tears forming in her eyes. "What if this distances us? If I lose all this we've built?" In a surprising move, Michael knelt before her, taking a small box from his pocket. "Emily Davis, I love you more than I ever thought possible to love someone. You and the girls are my family, my home. No matter where you go or what you decide to do, I want to be by your side. Will you marry me?" Emily gasped, tears now running freely down her face. The ring in the box was beautiful, but her eyes were fixed on Michael's face, seeing in it all the love and devotion she felt reflected back. "Yes," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." They kissed passionately, the world around them disappearing for a moment. When they finally separated, both laughing and crying at the same time, they heard a noise coming from the balcony door. Sophie and Lily were there, still in their pajamas, eyes wide with excitement. "Are you getting married?" Sophie asked, practically jumping with joy. "Come here, little ones," Michael called, opening his arms. The girls ran, throwing themselves into a group hug. "Does this mean you'll be officially our dad?" Lily asked, looking hopefully at Michael. "If you want, yes," he replied, his voice choked with emotion. "But what about Richard?" Sophie questioned, always practical. Emily took a deep breath, exchanging a look with Michael. "Richard will always be part of your lives if you so wish. But family, my loves, is much more than blood. It's love, care, being present." That night, as the twins finally slept, exhausted from so much excitement, Emily and Michael remained awake, planning the future. About the global change proposal, Emily began hesitantly. Michael interrupted her with a soft kiss. "We'll figure it out. Maybe I can expand the business to the countries you visit, or work remotely. The important thing is being together as a family." Emily felt her heart expand with love and gratitude. The journey that had begun so uncertainly on a cold sidewalk in Boston had led to this moment, the promise of a bright future full of challenges, yes, but also filled with love and possibilities. As the night progressed, Emily reflected on all the twists and turns life had provided her. From a single mother struggling on the streets to a successful businesswoman about to marry the man of her dreams. The difficulties hadn't ended. There was still the complex relationship with Richard to navigate, the challenges of a rising career, and the inevitable storms that life would bring. But now, with Michael by her side and the unconditional love of her daughters, she felt ready to face anything. The future was uncertain but promising, and Emily could hardly wait to see what the next chapter of her life held. The Anderson mansion was in a flurry. There were only 2 weeks left until Emily and Michael's wedding, and every corner of the house seemed to vibrate with the expectation of the big day. Martha coordinated an army of vendors, decorators, and organizers, while the twins talked of nothing but their flower girl dresses. Emily was in her office at the company, divided between calls with the Global Change Foundation and approvals of final wedding details when her assistant announced an unexpected visit. Richard. "Emily," he greeted, entering hesitantly into the room. "I hope I'm not interrupting." She indicated a chair, trying to maintain her composure. "What can I do for you, Richard?" He sat down, visibly uncomfortable. "I heard about your wedding to Michael. The girls can't stop talking about it." Emily felt a twinge of guilt for not having told him personally. "Yes, we're getting married. I hope this doesn't affect your meetings with the girls." Richard shook his head. "No, of course not. Actually, I came here to congratulate you. And to thank you." "Thank me?" Emily asked, surprised. "For not completely pushing me away from their lives," he explained, his voice laden with emotion. "I know I don't deserve the chance you and Michael gave me, and seeing how they talk about him, how they call him Dad, well, it made me realize that being a father is much more than biology." Emily felt her eyes fill with tears. "Richard, No," he gently interrupted. "You don't need to say anything. I just want you to know that I'm happy for you. Michael is a good man, and he loves the girls in a way that I took too long to learn." After Richard's departure, Emily found herself reflecting on how life took turns. Who would have thought that the man who once abandoned her would now be genuinely happy for her? At night, at home, Emily shared the occurrence with Michael. "That's surprisingly mature of him," Michael commented, embracing her. "Yes," Emily agreed. "I think we've all grown a lot in this past year." The days leading up to the wedding passed in a whirlwind. Between dress fittings, rehearsals, and meetings with the Global Change Foundation, Emily barely had time to breathe. But each time she looked at the ring on her finger, she felt a wave of happiness and certainty. On the eve of the wedding, Emily received an important call from the foundation. They wanted her to travel to Argentina in a month to begin the expansion of the project. "A month," she repeated, looking at Michael, who was beside her. "But that would be right after our honeymoon." Michael took her hand, nodding encouragingly. Emily took a deep breath. "All right, you can count on me. I'll be there." After hanging up, she turned to Michael. "Are you sure you're okay with this? I'll have to travel quite a bit in the coming months." He pulled her close, kissing her forehead. "Emily, your work is important. I'm incredibly proud of you. We'll make this work, together." On the morning of the wedding, the Anderson mansion was transformed. The garden, decorated with white and gold flowers, seemed straight out of a fairy tale. Guests were beginning to arrive, filling the air with animated voices and laughter. Emily was in her room, Martha helping her with the final touches to her dress, when Sophie and Lily came running in. "Mummy, you're beautiful," Lily exclaimed, her eyes shining. Sophie, always more observant, noticed Emily's tense expression. "Are you nervous, Mom?" Emily knelt, hugging her daughters. "A little bit, my love, but it's a good nervousness." "You don't need to be nervous," Sophie declared with the wisdom of her 6 years. "Uncle Mike, I mean Daddy Michael, loves you more than anything, just like we do." The simple words of her daughter brought tears to Emily's eyes. "Thank you, my loves. You are the best gift life could give me." The ceremony was magical. When Emily entered the garden arm in arm with her father, with whom she had reconciled months before, she only had eyes for Michael. He awaited her at the altar, his eyes shining with love and admiration. The twins preceded Emily, scattering flower petals along the path and smiling radiantly at all the guests. When she reached the altar, Michael took her hands, whispering "You are stunning," that made her heart race. The vows were exchanged with voices choked with emotion. Michael promised not only to love Emily, but to be a dedicated father to Sophie and Lily. Emily, in turn, thanked for the second chance that life had given her and promised to build a future full of love and companionship. The party that followed was a celebration of love and family. Richard made a brief appearance, congratulating the couple and enjoying a moment with the girls before discreetly withdrawing. When it came time for the newlyweds' waltz, Michael surprised everyone by calling not only Emily, but also Sophie and Lily to the dance floor. The four danced together, laughing and twirling, the personification of a family united by love. Later, when the party was beginning to wind down, Emily and Michael found a moment of quietness. Hand in hand, they observed the guests having fun and the twins asleep in an armchair in the corner. "Happy?" Michael asked, kissing the hand of his now wife. Emily smiled, feeling as fulfilled as never before, more than I ever imagined possible. As the sun set on the horizon, painting the sky in golden and rosy tones, Emily reflected on the amazing journey that had brought her here. From a cold sidewalk in Boston to this moment of pure happiness, she had faced challenges, overcome fears, and above all, learned the true meaning of family and love. The future would bring new challenges: international travel, the expansion of her project, the ups and downs of family life. But with Michael by her side, the love of her daughters, and the strength she had discovered in herself, Emily knew she was ready for anything. Night fell over the Anderson mansion, now truly a home, full of laughter, love, and promises of a bright future. And Emily, in the arms of her husband, surrounded by the family they had built together, knew that this was just the beginning of their love story. The Tuscan sun bathed the vineyards in a soft gold, while Emily and Michael walked hand in hand through the gardens of the villa they had rented for their honeymoon. After a week of pure happiness, exploring ancient cities, tasting exquisite wines, and simply enjoying each other's company, the couple was preparing to return to reality. "I'm going to miss this," Emily sighed, leaning back against Michael as they watched the sunset. Michael hugged her from behind, softly kissing her neck. "We can make this an annual tradition, what do you think? Our romantic getaway." Emily smiled, turning to face him. "I'd love that. But first, we have to survive the next month." The reminder of their imminent commitments hovered between them. In just 1 week, Emily would depart for Buenos Aires, initiating the international expansion of her project. The girls were so sad when we told them about the trip, Emily commented, concern evident in her voice. Michael nodded, understanding. It's a big change for them, but we explained that it's temporary and they understand how important your work is. Still, I feel guilty for leaving so soon after the wedding. Hey, Michael gently interrupted her, holding her face between his hands. Remember what we agreed? We're a team. I'll take care of the girls and you'll change the world. And on weekends, we'll have our family video calls. Emily smiled, grateful for the millionth time for having found such an understanding and supportive partner. Back in Boston, reality hit them like a whirlwind. Between unpacking and repacking, last-minute meetings and precious moments with the twins, the week flew by. On the eve of Emily's departure, the family gathered for a special dinner. Martha had prepared all the girls' favorite dishes, and the table was full of laughter and animated conversations. "Mommy," Lily asked between one bite and another, "are you going to bring presents from Argentina for us?" Emily laughed, nodding. "Of course, my love. What would you like?" "I want a book about the stars of the Southern Hemisphere," Sophie exclaimed, always the little scientist. "And I want to learn to dance tango," Lily added, her eyes shining with excitement. Michael laughed. "Well, I think I can take care of the tango lessons while Mommy is away. What do you think?" The girls shouted with joy, and Emily felt her heart warm. Even with the imminent separation, her family was united and strong. The next morning at the airport, the goodbyes were emotional. Emily hugged her daughters tightly, promising to call every day. "Remember, it's only for 2 weeks this time," she said, wiping away a stubborn tear. "I'll be back soon." Michael hugged her last, kissing her deeply. "You're going to rock it. My love, we're rooting for you." With a final wave, Emily boarded, her heart divided between excitement for the new challenge and anticipated longing for her family. In Buenos Aires, Emily dove headfirst into work. The expansion project was ambitious. Establish support centers for single mothers in 5 major Latin American cities over the next 2 years. The meetings were intense, the nights long, but with each success story she heard, each grateful smile she received, Emily knew she was on the right path. The nightly video calls with the family were the highlight of her days. Seeing the smiling faces of the girls, hearing about their adventures at school, and the improvised tango lessons with Michael gave her the strength she needed to continue. However, not everything was rosy. During a particularly difficult video call, Sophie broke down in tears. "Why do you have to stay away for so long?" The girls sobbed. "Don't you like being with us anymore?" Emily's heart broke. "My love, never think that. You are the most important thing in my life. I'm doing this for us, to help other families like ours was before." Michael intervened, hugging. "Sophie, remember when we talked about how Mommy is being brave? Sometimes we have to do difficult things for the greater good." After calming Sophie, and with the girls finally in bed, Emily and Michael had a moment alone. "How are you really?" Michael asked, his concern evident even through the screen. Emily sighed, allowing herself to show vulnerability. "It's harder than I imagined. The work is rewarding, but the longing, it physically hurts sometimes." "I know," Michael replied softly. "We miss you every day. But I'm incredibly proud of you, Emily. What you're doing is important." These words of support were exactly what Emily needed to hear. Renewed, she dove back into work in the following days, determined to make every moment away from home count. Nini. The last week of her stay, Emily received an exciting surprise. During a visit to one of the pilot centers in Buenos Aires, she met a young Brazilian mother who had fled from an abusive situation. "Your project saved my life," the woman said, tears in her eyes. "When I read about what you went through, about how you rebuilt your life, I found the courage to seek help." That moment crystallized for Emily the real impact of her work. They weren't just numbers in reports, but real lives being transformed. Upon returning to Boston, Emily was greeted at the airport by a scene that would stay forever in her memory. Michael held a large handmade sign by the girls, full of hearts and "Welcome, Mommy." In colorful letters, Sophie and Lily ran toward her as soon as they saw her, almost knocking her down with the force of their hugs. "Never leave for so long again," Lily murmured against her neck. "We missed you so much," Sophie added, clinging to her. Michael joined the group hug, kissing the top of Emily's head. "Welcome back, my love. We were incomplete without you." That night, gathered in the living room of the Anderson mansion, Emily shared stories from her trip, showing photos and delivering the promised presents. The girls listened with fascination, their eyes shining with pride for their mother. Later, with the children in bed, Emily and Michael cuddled on the balcony, their special place. "How was it really?" Michael asked, serving 2 glasses of wine. Emily smiled, reflecting. "Challenging, exciting, sometimes scary, but incredibly rewarding." She paused, taking a sip of wine. "And it made me value even more what we have here." Michael pulled her closer. "And the future? More trips planned?" "Some," Emily admitted. "But we're adjusting the schedule. Shorter periods away, more remote work. I don't want to miss important moments with the girls, or with you." They remained in silence for a moment, contemplating the city lights. Emily knew the challenges would continue. Balancing career and family would never be easy. But looking at Michael, thinking of the girls sleeping upstairs, she felt a deep certainty. "You know," she said softly, "a few years ago, I wouldn't dare even dream of a life like this. Now, looking back, I see that each obstacle, each difficult moment, brought us here." Michael smiled, kissing her tenderly. "And this is just the beginning, my love. We have a lifetime ahead." As the night progressed, Emily allowed herself to dream about the future, a bright future, full of challenges, yes, but also replete with love, purpose, and the family she loved so much. The Anderson mansion, once a symbol of solitude, now pulsed with life and love, and Emily, in the arms of her husband, knew that no matter where her work took her, her true home would always be there, in the heart of her family. The Boston autumn painted the trees in the garden of the Anderson mansion in shades of gold and red. Almost a year had passed since Emily and Michael's wedding, and the family's life was in constant motion. Emily was in her home office, finalizing a video call with her team in Argentina, when she heard a commotion from downstairs. Quickly saying, "Goodbye," she went down the stairs to find Sophie in tears and Lily trying to console her. "What happened?" Emily asked, hugging her daughters. Sophie, between sobs, extended a crumpled paper. It was an invitation to a science fair at school. "I wanted you to come, Mommy," she murmured, "but you'll be traveling again." Emily's heart tightened. Her next trip to Chile to inaugurate a new support center was scheduled for the same week as the fair. "Oh dear," she began, but was interrupted by Michael, who was entering the room. "What if I go to the fair and live stream it for Mommy?" he suggested, joining the group hug. "That way she can see your project even from far away." The suggestion seemed to calm Sophie a bit, but Emily could see the disappointment in her daughter's eyes. That night, after putting the girls to bed, she found Michael on the balcony, their usual refuge for serious conversations. "I'm failing as a mother," Emily confessed, letting the tears she had held back all day finally fall. Michael hugged her firmly. "You're not failing, Emily. You're doing the best you can in a complicated situation." "But I'm missing important moments," she insisted. "Sophie's science fair, Lily's piano recital last month." Michael gently held her face, forcing her to look into his eyes. "Emily, what you're doing is amazing. You're changing lives. The girls know that. They're proud of you." "But at what cost?" Emily whispered. The conversation was interrupted by the ring of Emily's phone. It was an international call, from Mexico, where they were planning to open the next center. The following days were a whirlwind of preparations for the trip to Chile and attempts to make up for lost time with the girls. Emily helped Sophie with her project for the science fair, a model of the solar system made with recycled materials, and watched Lily practice the new piece she was learning on the piano. On the eve of her departure during dinner, Lily made a surprising announcement. "Mommy, Daddy, I want to learn Spanish. Everyone looked at her surprised. "Why, dear?" Michael asked. "So I can speak with the children from the places Mommy visits," Lily explained, her eyes shining. "Who knows, maybe one day I can help too." Emily felt a wave of emotion. Her daughter wasn't resentful of her travels, she was inspired by them. Sophie, not wanting to be left behind, added, "And I want to learn about the different types of renewable energy used in Latin America. We can use that in the next center. Right, Mommy?" The pride and love Emily felt at that moment almost left her speechless. "Of course, my loves. What do you think about planning a family trip for you to see some of the centers?" The suggestion was received with shouts of joy. Michael smiled, winking at Emily. It was a reminder that, despite the challenges, they were raising curious, compassionate, and globally conscious daughters. The trip to Chile was a success, with the inauguration of the new center attracting attention from local and international media. Emily managed to watch Sophie's presentation at the science fair via streaming, thanks to Michael, who maintained a video call throughout the event. However, it was during this trip that a new challenge arose. Emily received an unexpected call from Richard. "Emily, sorry to bother you," he began, sounding nervous. "I received a job offer in the United States." Emily's stomach knotted. "Oh, and what does that mean for the visits with the girls?" Richard hesitated. "That's why I'm calling. I wanted to know if we could talk about the possibility of bringing the girls to visit me there occasionally. I know it's a lot to ask, but..." Emily felt a mixture of emotions: surprise, concern, a touch of jealousy. "Richard, this is complicated. I need to talk to Michael and, more importantly, with the girls. Can we discuss this when I return?" After hanging up, Emily found herself in a whirlwind of thoughts. How would the girls react to this news? How would it affect the family dynamic they had built so carefully? Back in Boston, Emily and Michael had a long conversation about Richard's proposal. They decided that transparency was the best path and opted to discuss the matter as a family. On a Saturday afternoon, they gathered everyone in the living room. The girls' reactions were mixed. Sophie seemed cautious, while Lily showed cautious curiosity about the idea of visiting another country. "You don't need to decide anything now," Michael assured. "It's a big change, and we all need to think about..." Emily observed her daughters, amazed by their maturity. "What are you thinking, my loves?" Sophie was the first to speak. "I think it would be cool to visit another place. But what if Dad Richard decides to keep us there?" "That won't happen," Michael stated firmly. "You'll always return home to us." Lily, always the most sensitive, asked, "Mommy, would you be sad if we went?" Emily felt tears in her eyes. "Of course I would miss you, my love. But what makes me happiest is seeing you growing, learning, and having new experiences." The conversation continued for hours, with the family openly discussing fears, expectations, and possibilities. In the end, they decided they would consider the idea but would make the final decision together, as a family. That night, lying in bed next to Michael, Emily reflected on how their lives had transformed. From a situation of despair on the streets of Boston to this united family facing global challenges together. "What are you thinking?" Michael asked softly, noticing her distant gaze. Emily smiled, turning to him. "About how blessed we are. Despite all the challenges, look where we are now." Michael pulled her close, tenderly kissing her. "And this is just the beginning, my love. We have a lifetime of adventures ahead." As sleep enveloped them, Emily allowed herself to dream of the future, a future where her daughters would grow to be strong and compassionate women, where her work would continue to make a difference in the lives of other families, and where the love she shared with Michael would only strengthen with each new challenge. The Anderson mansion, once a symbol of emptiness and wealth, was now a vibrant home full of love, laughter, and endless possibilities. And Emily, in the arms of her husband, with the soft sound of her daughter's breathing coming from the hallway, knew that no matter where life took them, they would face everything, together, as the family they were.